We're gonna watch the War Within Wowcast. That was from Blizzard because I was at work. If I put this here, if I sit over here, can I stretch this? Oops. That didn't move me. Where's my webcam? One moment, please. We're having technical difficulties. We're gonna watch this and hope for the best. Tell me if you guys can hear it though.
Welcome to Wowcast. Today we're going to talk about The War Within, which alpha starts soon. I have two special guests with me today. Please introduce yourselves.
Oh, hi. I'm Ian, Game Director on WoW.
Hi,
I'm
Ian.
Tina, Associate Art Director on WoW.
Hi,
Thank you
Tina.
guys so much for joining me today. Before we talk about alpha, what can you summarize about The War Within, Ian?
Well, so The War Within, I mean, of course, it is the 10th expansion to well-known video game World of Warcraft. But even, I think, more special to us, it's the beginning of the World Soul Saga. It's the beginning of
An end.
probably the... So as you know, all expansions do, it kicks off with a journey to a new place. But really, this is going to be beginning to set the stage and establish the stakes for a conflict that threatens not just, you know, ourselves and our families and those we hold dear, but the very world that we call home, the very world beneath our feet that's been home to all of our adventures. And if we don't win this one, nothing else matters.
So this character has been everywhere for The War Within. Xel'Atath. She's purple. She's amazing. Can you tell us more about her?
Yeah, Xel'Atath is, one of our key villains of the World Soul Saga. The expansion is, part of it is this journey, delving deeper, find Xel'Atath and her allies.
Beats the shit out of her.
And the inspiration for her design from an art side was really based on the priest artifact weapon that she had been trapped in for so long. So if you look at her armor, like all the motifs of her belt, her shoulders, really take inspiration from that design. Even the runes on her cheeks.
Not that this was
a homage to N'Zoth, who freed her from the dagger.
Knife it.
If later on in War,
But isn't N'Zoth evil?
Wiping to a raid somewhere, just blame the Shadow Priests for not just putting the knife down, walk away from the talking dagger, and we wouldn't be here.
Oh,
Shadow Priest to blame?
are there any
Sammy?
familiar faces that we can recognize?
Yeah, some of the key heroes of our story are Illyria and Anduin. So these two, they're running a bit, right, from some of the wounds of their past. But in the end, they're going to find hope and redemption. So, Illyria, we've seen her new design that really reflects the of her character. And Anduin, we saw him in our cinematic, and he just looks, a little more haggard.
I like Anduin. I don't like the Illyria changes.
He's working on it.
Yeah, I mean, the name The War Within is one that has a couple of layers to it, right? Obviously, we're literally delving beneath the surface of Azeroth and going to be battling within our world. But this is also a story that involves a lot of inner turmoil and inner conflict. And Anduin is probably the most torn of any of our cast of heroes, given what he went through in the Shadowlands. And his journey into the darkness as he seeks to rediscover his own light is a big part of the narrative arc.
And with The War Within, there's new zones. Can we talk about what our new zones are going to be?
The continent as a whole that begins on the surface and extends beneath the earth, right, we're calling Khazalgar. This is an ancient home to the Earthen. It's actually just off the west coast of Pandaria, about between Pandaria and Kalimdor.
Is that where we got the Panda remix?
A couple hundred nautical miles away from a certain sword that's sticking out of the southern end of Kalimdor. But yes, home to 4 zones with amazing, varied settings.
Yeah, our first zone, the Isle of Dorn. This is basically, you'll find an isolated group of Earthen there. And so they have their awesome city, Dornogal, which we're very excited for players to check out. That'll be the hub in the end. The second zone is the Ringing Deeps. So, the evocative of like mine picks, industry. And so this is the heart of Earthen industry. But it's not all just, lava and fire. It's mixed with these beautiful caverns.
Oh my God.
With light and water coming in, creating these, lush spaces for the players.
Not the sandstone, Drake.
We go to Hallowfall. Hallowfall is where we really wanted to break expectations. Right, like this one, this is Arathi, airships.
Right, underground airships, right? The first thing you'd naturally think of when you're going under the surface.
It's so cool.
Of course.
And then our final zone is Ashkahet. So this is the heart of the Nerubian Empire. This is where we'll finally be able to see the Nerubians and all of their strength and glory, like with the height of their civilization.
I'm so excited for this.
I think we'll get into the details of Alpha later, but everyone's journey is going to start in the Isle of Dorn. But I really can't wait until we get to Hallowfall in our testing. And I think Tina mentioned that this crystal, it is such a striking visual element that dominates the zone. Imagine in this place deep within the earth, a radiant crystal of light, and the way, as it illuminates the surroundings, that actually plays with the environment and some of the spawns and how the world around it reacts to it. And I think when we set out to create this underground space, we knew that one of the risks was that it could feel oppressive, that people didn't want to feel the sense of claustrophobia.
I feel like with this design in mind, they took a lot of notes from like the sniffing people we got from Dragonflight. Nobody liked that zone because you went down there and you could fly, but like there was no way out. Like, why we have this beautiful dragon expansion, we're flying all over the world, and then we got stuck under with the sniffin, nifflin, whatever they're called, the stinky ones. Like, and I don't recall anybody being like, oh my god, this zone is like the frickin' cat's meow. So I feel like they learned, like they listened and they've learned from that by making these adjustments for this, and I love that. This also may have been done before that came out, but that's a huge win for me.
If you're always in caves, Hallowfall really from the outset was built to be a place where, honestly, unless you fly all the way up to check out the ceiling above you, it doesn't feel underground. It feels like you could be outdoors in some vast, welcoming area it's incredibly epic.
But that's good too if they're hidden away,
When we
right?
arrive to the Isle of Dorn, what's the first thing we'll see?
Well, so you're going to see something a bit different in Alpha from when the expansion goes live. There is an expansion intro experience that is not currently being tested. It's something that has some, cool narrative elements that we want players to all experience together later in the year when War Within launches. But players will spawn in the Alpha on the Isle of Dorn, surrounded by some debris that will look pretty familiar and pretty distinctive, and really is the scars of an initial battle that seems like it didn't end so well. And the beginning of our journey, as with many expansions, is a bit of a mystery, a bit of an investigation of arriving in a strange land, having this threat that we face, these visions, these whispers that heroes around Azeroth have been hearing in recent months, but trying to understand the nature of the threat we face, how we're going to stop it, and our journey begins on the doorstep of these ancient earthen people who are going to begin, helping us figure out where to go next.
They're going to become our next allied race too, right?
Once we earn their trust, that's for sure.
Is there any other?
Oh, she looks
that we're
cool.
gonna be familiar with?
Yeah, there are going to be some characters that we haven't seen in World of Warcraft in a while, but will be, part of this story. That's because of their, dwarven heritage. And, Magni, he hears the Radiant Song. He brings some of his family members along.
Azeroth,
Moira, who is leader of the Dark Iron Dwarves and heir to Ironforge. She'll be here with her son, Dagran, who is now a young adult. Dagran, the last time we saw him in game, he was this pretty generic-looking dwarven baby, but now, the Dark Iron heritage is starting to show more.
Hi, Corey.
Along with his personality. So he has a bunch of these scrolls and books, like really showing that he has a very scholarly nature.
One of the fun aspects of just world building and narrative in WoW is we have this vast array of characters and champions and heroes and backup characters. And whenever we figure out where we're going, what the next natural location is, what the story elements are, the first question we ask is, who needs to be here? Who does it make sense to have answer this call, want to step forward? Just as when we were dealing with the Green Dragonflight or the Emerald Dream or the like, okay, this is time for Malfurion and Tyrande to step forward. Now that we're going to this ancestral homeland of the Earthen with this ancient connection to the dwarven legacy of Azeroth, this is a time for our dwarves to take center stage.
Can we get a gnome expansion?
All right, so let's talk
ready.
about the 8 new dungeons in the War Within. What are your guys' favorites or the notable ones you want to talk about?
Well, so one that's fun to talk about is actually probably the first dungeon the players are going to see in their journeys, and it's going to be tested early on in the alpha. This is the Rookery dungeon in the Isle of Dorn. The Rookery is the place where the Storm Griffins were raised and trained by the ancient Earthen over the centuries. Dwarves and Griffins go hand in hand, and the Earthen have a legacy of Storm Riders that,
I'm sorry, I ate my dinner at the same time.
The War Within Heroic Edition, you might have been flying around on that guy. There's plenty more where that came from in the Isle of Dorn. And so this dungeon, of course, is not all peaceful. It's been overrun by a group of corrupted Earthen known as the Skarden. And we're going to be just beginning to understand where they came from and what their nature is as we fight through it.
They're so cool looking.
The cool thing about this dungeon is that it's actually part of the main campaign as you play through Isle of Dorn. Now, I know some people are instantly saying, wait a minute, I don't like doing dungeons. I just like solo questing. That's terrible.
Then stop playing an MMO.
In 10.2.5, towards the end of Dragonflight, we introduced this feature called Follower Dungeons. And we're really happy to bring that to the level up dungeons in War Within right from the outset, so that you can go in solo with NPC allies as you play through the dungeon if that's what you prefer. Or, of course, you can just queue up with friends or random group mates through the group finder. But what this lets us do is, where appropriate, we can really have the story flow directly through dungeons in a way that we couldn't in the past, in ways that at times was frankly awkward, because sometimes major villains die in dungeons. Dungeons are places of great importance in a zone. We couldn't really tie them directly into the questing because we didn't want to create an obstacle for players who really just prefer to keep playing solo.
Tina, is there anything that you like?
One of my favorites is in Hallowfall. So it's called the Priory of the Sacred Flame, and it's this Earthor monastery. So one of the coolest parts is the final boss room. There's this giant window that frames the crystal that is embedded in the ceiling of Hallowfall. And so I love, the beauty of the room, as well as just how it ties in with the narrative of the story as a whole. And another really cool one, it's the City of Threads. So this one is underneath the Nerubian city proper. And so it's really interesting to see the ancient civilization that the newer civilization was built on top of, and just to think
you can turn the spiders off
of Nerubian history that is in this land.
Is it that the ancient civilization back in like Lich King?
Even far before that.
It's even farther before that?
Yeah, the Nerubians, I think, we might think of them as monstrous or arachnid. They're one of the great powers, one of the great advanced civilizations of Azeroth, right up there with the elves and trolls and the others that helped shape the course of the world's history. We've only really seen hints of them going back to Wrath. If you're around the Azjol Nerub or Ankahet dungeons, you could see their buildings off in the background. But
this
is a civilization that at its height rivaled the High Elves and the Nightborn on the surface.
That's insane.
They were able to go toe-to-toe with the Lich King's armies and win until the old gods and their forces on another flank.
So is that all in the books? Like, you wouldn't know that just by playing the game, right? That's in the books? It's in the game too. Is it really? This is all the shit they tell you when you skip reading quests. Wow.
Hello, Advent Skip. There's a drag skip. The castle skip. Monster skip.
I didn't start playing until Wrath, and I didn't read the quest on Wrath. I was just having a good time. I'll admit it. This is the spider mode where they go to crabs.
All of you out there who could never, go to that spider section in Nax, you'll be able to turn on arachnophobia filter, and all spider beasts will turn into crabs.
That's excessive. Can I say that? I said that.
It's way better than you might think just hearing that sentence. I can't wait for players to be able to
a little excessive
and hopefully feel more comfortable in parts of our world. This is something that when we announced the Nerubian-centric
dogs or something
War Within at BlizzCon, we heard trepidation from portions of our community who love WoW, but were worried they weren't going to be able to experience it. Honestly, prior to that, it's something we heard concerns about from within our own team, where there are, people who genuinely felt uncomfortable with these elements of the game that we were building together. And so we set out to try to find a solution that would still, preserve the fidelity of the game, but really
Not
make
your
it
eyes
more
closed.
approachable, more accessible to everyone.
Me too,
Speaking
actually.
of the Nerubians, once we reach level 80, we're going to go to the new raid, Nerbo Palace. Is there anything you want to speak about that?
Nerbo?
This raid is epic in so many ways. One of the coolest parts
Nerbo?
is there's this beautiful showpiece that is just in front of the Queen's palace. It represents the Nerubian race, and it just shows how highly Queen Ansrek thinks of her people and herself.
There's a lot of detail. These artists are wild.
Sections of the raid, you'll get to check out her innermost sanctum. This is where, only VIPs for the Nerubians get to go, and you really get to explore the dark elegance.
Oh my God, look at that booty.
And again, as we were just saying, like the Nerubians, we need to remember they are an advanced race, very, this epic civilization. I think there's some parallels probably to going back to the Nightborn in Suramar and what going into that city and that palace felt like. We really want to show the Queen Ansarek encounter that Tina mentioned. She's going to be the end boss of sort of the initial season, the initial raid tier. The encounter team is hard at work on this one. I can't wait to see it tested later on in beta. This is, the whole room is really purpose-built to showcase some vertical elements, and it's just an incredible set piece. But we want to, as always, integrate the environment wherever possible into our encounters, so you're facing off against both a very powerful magical user, but also someone who is arachnid in nature. And how do we kind of deliver parts of the fantasy of
I'm
scaling
done
a web while locked in combat against the Queen? Those are the things that we're currently exploring. Can't wait to see that up for testing.
Does that mean we're going to get tier sets again?
Certainly. I think last time we tried taking them away,
I'm so happy.
torches and pitchforks in the street.
Keep a tier set.
New tier means the tier set.
First one's got to be
As it
priest.
is, unlike years and years ago,
Priest shaman, maybe?
when you had to raid in order to get the tier set, now you can get them from a wide array of activities, whether you're a raider,
That first one's cute. I hope it's
or an
priest.
actual world player, which includes now delves.
Delves. Let's start talking about delves.
Yeah, I mean, delves.
Okay, so before the delves, and they probably won't talk about it here, and I don't think this will change. My hope is that with the rating, there's going to be more options, not stuck in the 20-man mythic only for the hardest content. Like, I know it's been talked about, but because they haven't said anything yet, I really don't think the first tier will change. But I would love to see a 15-man raid or a 10-man raid be brought in instead. Look at my little doggo. How cute is she? Sorry. But like the 20-man is tired. It's tired. It's a lot of work. Folks don't want to do it. Scheduling is a complete waste of time, and it's hard. And then you're fighting the roster boss on top of it. I want to see a change. Not 30. I'll throw up. Doggo's tired. Listen, she's tired of the 20-man mythic too. If you don't listen to me, listen to the doggo. Listen to her. She's here to tell you what's up. She says 10-man.
Elves are one of the major new features in War Within, and I think we're really excited to offer a more structured, progression-oriented extension of the outdoor world gameplay that we know is the favorite of so many of our players. And delves are these seamless experiences integrated into all of our zones, where you can have these localized, varied adventures alongside in the first season, Bran Bronzebeard, either on your own or with friends. And finally, get a shot at some in-game epic rewards just through an extension of the outdoor world ecosystem.
Yeah, we'll be able to get it from the Great Vault, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, super exciting. So one of our goals with building delves was we really wanted the player to just feel like they adventured, came across a place, and could just, go in and see what's inside. When you walk up to the delve, there's this, dark, misty door, and you click on it, and then it just disappears, and you just walk into your own personal delve instance. It's kind of really exciting.
I mean, players are going to have that first experience on the Isle of Dorn early in the alpha. The first delve they're likely to encounter is Earthcrawl Mines. You're going to encounter your good friend Bran Bronzebeard outside an ancient earthen mine that has been overrun with Nerubians who are burrowing up from the depths. Bran will ask you if you want him to outfit himself as a healer or as a damage dealer to help support you. And you'll venture in and have your very first delve experience. You'll be able to choose whether you want to do it on tier 1 or tier 2 difficulty. Tier 1 is kind of the default. This is for everyone experience. Tier 2 is for those who want to opt into a bit more of a challenge because that's what they enjoy.
I feel like it's going to be boring.
Tiers that can be unlocked max level as part of the end game and seasonal progression.
That's my
We really
prediction.
just can't
They're
wait
gonna
to
be
get player
boring.
feedback from the outset, really all through alpha, on this new system, on how it is or isn't working for you, and whether we can really meet everyone's expectations, from people who just want a casual romp as an extension of their outdoor world experience, to those who want a solo progression challenge that they can really strive to overcome.
I'm so tired.
Has been really
I am so freaking tired of hearing a solo end gameplay. You're playing an MMO. Like, what? It's not a single player game. Like, listen, I know some people like that, but oh my God. If you don't like grouping up with random people to do stuff, they give you your follower only dungeons, that should be it. But like this extra stuff they're putting in, like it's more content. I'm gonna do it to see it, but like, how good was the Maw for solo content? That shit was ass. And this looks like a Maw 2.0. I'm gonna put it here. If you're gonna add single player mode, get rid of the 10 of the difficulties of the content. Yeah. It's that they don't like being an MMO anymore. Yeah, like, it's because people are always constantly complaining and bitching that they don't want to group up with people. They don't like pugging things. They don't want to do this. Join a guild. Like, that part of the game, that social aspect, I feel is gone. And that's so sad. If you don't like dealing with other players, go play a regular RPG. I just think that is a feature. At first I was like, okay, scenario. And then I'm like, no, this is the Maw 2.0. And I hate hearing this. Players want their own solo adventure. Playing with NPCs. That shit's gonna be boring. It is going to be boring. Okay, well, I don't like pugging dungeon. Yeah, but like pugging a heroic or a normal dungeon, Beth, you can do that. You may not like it, but you do it. Maybe pugging like higher keys, that can be toxic. Even doing 15s, because for whatever reason, the WoW player base who's like mediocre at best, like between like say 18s and plus 22s have a god complex and they think that their shit don't stink, when in reality the top players are super chill. Your bottom players just trying to learn, and it's that middle bracket that think they're better than they actually are, when in reality they're ass cannon. They're literally ass cannon. You know what I mean? Like, calm down. Calm down. Check yourself. That's just like my rant. I love WoW, and grouping up, yeah, there's a little bit of anxiety there, but you have to like test it out. Being afraid of the spiders in the game, like, that's gotta be less than the 1% of players that are clearing mythic difficulty. But sure, put that in. Let's put in solo adventures for people. WoW was turning into a seasonal game, and this little extra filler stuff, I'm not playing. Like, once you're done like your group content, are you gonna then go back and say, oh, I should do all of these? Maybe if there's like a mount or a pet or a title behind them. But I just feel like it's not. It's an MMO, multiplayer, play with people. Like, what is going on? Who's making these decisions? Like, the game rating is fantastic. I'm gonna put it for PvE. Rating, it's good. The problem with rating is trying to keep a consistent 20-man roster with Mythic. But like, heroic, normal, Mythic, people like that content. Keys, people are enjoying that content. They can push themselves. You need a group, but you could push yourself. PvP is wrecked and needs a complete redone. I've not met one person who likes to PvP that likes the current PvP ways. Something in there needs to be fixed. If WoW turns more into single player and just like collecting things, I'm not gonna keep playing it. Like, you heard it here first. I enjoy WoW for the rating and for the Mythic Plus. And while those feel good, there's still a lot to still fix within those. Like, at this point, why does every healer not have a battle res? Why can priests not get rid of poison and druids can't get rid of diseases? Like, why can't every healer dispel every, like, that's what's making metas. Like, think of Everbloom when the poisons all went out. We had 4 of them on 25. I can't dispel any of that. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna heal my tits off for a second. Like, there's so much they could do to balance more of the things. And an argument I hear is, oh, well, then you use your class fantasy. Listen, with the amount of players that change mains every patch to be meta, that class fantasy is basically out the fucking window anyways at this point. People are constantly changing off their mains. That class fantasy, like, stop sticking to it. It's not a thing anymore. It's gone. It is literally gone. Okay, we're going back to our video really quick. Thank you so much.
We're so excited about Delves as a central part of War Within.
Yeah, I'm excited that we're gonna be able to just jump in and get our, like, go solo with Bran, or you can have friends, but also just get rewards in that way, especially the tier sets with the catalyst.
Exactly.
So, like, if you go into a Delve, whatever the fuck they're called, with a friend, do you still get Braun, or is Braun only there if you're by yourself?
Then that really cool mechanical mount.
Yeah, so this is going to kind of be an introduction to sort of the Delves end game. As you hit max level,
Total missions, okay.
Start to get a sense of the Delves ecosystem. Right at the start of that, we're going to give you this epic customizable mount, kind of the successor to the customizable drakes you had in Dragon Isles, where you'll be able to, through doing Delves, earn a variety of different customizations and attachments that you can mix and match to really create your own personalized flying mount.
Nobody liked getting a fucking ruin on your Drake and customizing your Drake. People want mounts. This is such a cop-out. Nobody wants a pattern or a recipe to learn to make something. Like, what? Just give it a mount. Let people pick what mounts they want to use. Like, this thing is ugly as shit. On a little fucking balloon flying around. This looks stupid. What? Stop doing that. It's such a cop-out.
So does this mechanical mount have dynamic flying?
This is one of the big questions we had moving on from Dragonflight. We had the question of like, well, okay, dragon riding is amazing. We can't get rid of this.
I hate it. Some love it.
How is this going to work alongside of the hundreds of mounts that we already have in players' collections? And how, from a design perspective, how do we navigate a world where some mounts can fly in this awesome way and others can only do the old quote-unquote static flight? Fortunately, I think our art team was able to work out an amazing solution for us.
Oh my god, that mount's
We
cool.
were very excited to be able to make pretty much all mounts be able to dynamically fly. So even Nimron's head in, we figured it out. We made it work. So
I'm really excited to see Nimron's head going like super fast.
I
Another
don't have
feature coming in the
Nimron's
Within
head.
that I'm really excited about, as well as a lot of other people, is warbands.
Yeah, warbands. I mean,
I'm excited for
I think
this.
as I summarized it at BlizzCon, it's just account-wide everything.
Yes.
Players increasingly play multiple characters. This is something we've heard loud and clear, that the game needs to be more alt-friendly. That players want to be able to choose where they spend their time across their different
Y'all are
characters
rude.
instead of feeling like they have to reprogress everything individually. And so, yeah, the warband is it is your account in its entirety. It is your collection of champions, whether they're Horde or Alliance, regardless of what realm they're on.
I love
they're all
this.
part of the same warband, which gives access to various shared progression systems.
And then you get to see all of your favorites on, one screen together. So in our new UI, we'll have warbands, and you'll be able to move 4 up into that space and see them all hanging out around a campfire.
I didn't really
Is
care
that on
about
the character
that.
Select screen?
Yeah,
I
the
like my
characters
gold
all
farming.
Oh, that's gonna be totally
Like, if
different
I'm
than what we're
farming
used to
Mog,
logging
I'm gonna
in.
fill that bank up.
Yes, you'll know, like, this is a completely different world. It's a completely different welcome into World of Warcraft. What we showed off at BlizzCon was just actually a UI
There's
mock-up.
not some
but we're
cap.
excited
4
to see people
characters, I
react
think.
to the real thing.
You just have to move
Really,
them
as with
around
everything
into
else,
it.
warbands are a foundation. This is a system that we want to build the next generations of World of Warcraft on. In 2004, WoW launched with everything character-based. In 2024, WoW is going to shift to everything being account-based. And
In 2024, that is this year, everything is going to be account-based. So what I would like to see them do, and I hope they do, is if you were a Classic or if you're playing Classic right now, if you got a mount in Classic, why can you not have that mount on retail? Like, if it's account-bound, it's the same account. So why is that got to be separate?
can't wait to hear feedback about what other areas we can expand upon here, and that's going to shape not just War Within, but later updates and expansions. And we're just excited about this platform that better reflects the way our players are looking to play World of Warcraft today.
You can't forget about PvP. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we have a new battleground called the Deep Hall.
No.
This one is earthen themed. It's a bit of a mashup between Silver Shard Mines and Arathi Basin. So, hold some points, push some carts.
No.
We're really excited to see how players navigate around this one.
Yeah, and in terms of how players are interacting with it, there is an overhaul to our rated battleground system that is coming with War Within. People who've been paying attention over the course of Dragonflight have checked out our Battleground Blitz, our kind of brawl that was testing out a 8v8 solo.
I don't like any of their cart battlegrounds they've done.
Move to that as a default for how rated battlegrounds are going to work going forward. I think we're really excited to make that battleground experience that personally I've always felt is the best part of WoW PvP, the larger scale, more cooperative, objective based, collaborative, competitive setting, as opposed to the deathmatch style in Arena, to make that more accessible to everyone who, loves Battlegrounds, loves PvP. We know, it's a bit overdue, honestly, us adding a new Battleground map into the rotation, and we're excited to do more of this going forward. We're excited to have...
I feel like nobody likes Silver Shard Mines, and that's pushing a mine cart. And what's the one from, I want to say MOP, where there's 5 nodes you have to hold, but you also have to run the flag. That one's not very popular either. The battlegrounds that people like, if they're smaller, are like your regular War Song or AB, or for bigger, people like to do AV. So I feel like it's just there's nowhere flag in the middle, right? Right. So it's just capture the base over the 5 of them. And does this mean that you can't go into rated battlegrounds in a group anymore? Is it all by yourself? Because if you get into if I solo queue into a battleground for rated and I'm not in comms and I get against a team that's in comms, they're gonna shit on me literally, and then what? Also, I wish you could be involved with teamwork. Oh, we love teamwork. You didn't hear it from me, but there may be interest apps opening later this summer, but you didn't hear that from me. Nothing beats War Song. Listen, you can't beat perfection. Look who it is, the one only CelHeals. I'm good, Daniel. How are you doing? If it's the current duration, you can only queue with a healer if you're a DPS or vice versa. So there's no more grouping for rated battlegrounds? What? I'm telling. I heard that. You heard nothing, Vinny. You heard nothing. High pitch Noah.
A new framework that can make battlegrounds more central to the end game rewarding part of PvP. And yeah, this is just the beginning of a new chapter.
Another feature in the War Within is hero talents. We've been having a lot of articles talking about them. What are some of the other things that we can expect with the hero talents coming forward?
Well, I can say there's going to be no more blogs and articles releasing hero talents, because they'll be there for you to jump in and play. And I think that's the most exciting thing. We're so grateful to the community for all of the feedback and discussion in recent months, going back to the first blog in December. This really helped us shape this central feature of how people's class gameplay is going to evolve. You're going to see hero talents for the trees that we haven't discussed previously, and for many of the ones that we have released, you'll log in and see changes that are directly shaped by your feedback, by what we heard loud and clear in some cases about what was and wasn't exciting. We've committed to have as many of these playable right from the outset as possible. We will have 100% of the hero talent trees available and playable not long into alpha, and then the rest of the journey is going to be about iteration, tuning, and really just dialing it all in to make the polished experience that everyone is excited about.
So what are we doing with professions in the War Within?
I think
so. Before we jump into professions, I want to also mention about the talents. My biggest fear is we're going to have a lot of button bloat. I feel, and I hate to be the one to say this, but I feel like a lot of classes now could probably go with a pruning. And there's a lot of abilities that are in the talent trees. As a holy priest, a lot of my abilities are passive anyways. Same as playing as a bear tank or shadow priest. So I almost wish that they could get rid of some filler spells. If you're playing shadow mind games, that is such a stupid ass. It feels clunky. It doesn't feel good to play. I'm on a finger. Same on a fingers. True girl. I just if I have 18 keybinds, 19, 20 keybinds, that's gotta be that's a lot. Remove mind games, right? I was going to play shadow and I was this just doesn't fit or feel like it needs to be in the rotation. And on Holy Priest, it's a lot of passive. Like if you flash heal somebody, you can give them a DR for whatever it is, 10% or whatever. You got your mastery that's smart heals, your light will that's smart heals, you're buffing your renew, you're buffing your desperate prayer. Like there's a lot of spells that, like your talents are there, but you're just making something stronger. Or you have like prayer of healing, circle of healing, sanctify, serenity, palm. Like you get all of these spells. I think there's way more holy priest spells than like resto druid, but resto druid has like your shape shifting to go into bear, or to go into cat, or to do X, Y, or Z. Like I don't want there to be too much button bloat either. I'm gonna have an opinion on these professions too, so we're gonna listen to profession part next. Good luck.
I think when we really overhauled professions in Dragonflight, we saw that as a kind of a permanent shift in how professions were going to work going forward. So you can expect, new recipes, different enchants, but the same fundamental sort of progression and structure to professions that you saw in Dragonflight. One big piece of feedback that we heard throughout Dragonflight, though, was a bit of frustration with the work order system from crafters who were just looking to complete quests, looking to skill up, but found themselves competing and often racing to grab work orders with their fellow craft.
Professions. Maybe I'm just old, but they're overcomplicated. Like they are overcomplicated. I shouldn't have to go and get a hat and a waist and a fucking scepter and get high inspiration and a chance to learn a recipe that's higher. It's so overcomplicated, and you can't even reset your progression tree. If they're gonna keep professions this way, give us a way to reset your progression points. Like if you make a mistake, let me fix the mistake. You can refix your class trees. Why can't you refix a profession tree? The other comment I have is like in the old professions, I get they were stale, they were boring, you weren't doing a whole bunch of stuff, you were just making X amount of these to get to this max level. Like I still wish that was what you needed to do, but maybe on like gear pieces, like the big gear pieces, those you have to make and try to like skill them up. But like, oh my gosh, like my professions, I'm still like silver star across the board because it doesn't make sense to me. It's too much, and like I hate it. So and yes, they're talking about the crafting orders. That's the other thing. People are bidding out super fast, that like it took away from the enjoyment of trying to learn a new profession system because there was just so much so fast. Like I know a lot of people switched out of crafting into like picking flowers and gathering because it was just simpler. And that's kind of like what I'll probably end up doing for like, I have enchanting so I can DE stuff and I can sell it. But like I made a lot of money with professions up until they changed this. Maybe not as much in Shadowlands, but like they've removed that, and I'm like, I'm not making nearly as much gold, which is a me problem, maybe not a player-based problem. But if professions are too much, I just don't do them. I won't care. Like, like I'll buy a token, I guess.
So what we're excited to offer is a baseline availability.
Hi, Grab.
Basically NPC crafting.
No, UX?
So it's could be, Earthen in Isle of Dorn who need a hammer made or need a helmet made, and they're constantly putting their work orders up onto the market, so there's always something for you to grab. The player ones will still be more lucrative, but there should always be that baseline availability if you just want to skill up, you just want to practice your trade skill. And there's also some cool potential for narrative tie-ins, the ability to have quests that now can point you towards that system because we can count on it always being there.
So with Dragonflight and the profession overhaul, there was also a UI overhaul. Is there anything we're going to see with the War Within?
Yeah, so the UI overhaul, it's basically a continued improvements that we want to make over time.
I love that.
One of the things that I'm very excited about is the quest bang overhaul. So we're going to have a bunch of new icons that will make what type of quest it is much more clear. One of the new ones that you'll see is one that's like we consider an important one. These aren't campaign, but they're pretty important to your character. For instance,
okay, but like, don't we already have the purple exclamation marks in the game? I feel like it's easy to tell what your quests are. Like they already had the main ones highlighted, and then they had like other side ones.
For instance, some that must-do ones for your profession, or ones where you're gonna unlock the revival catalyst.
Yeah, as we've leaned more and more into outdoor world gameplay and varied gameplay there, different types of public events over the course of Dragonflight, honestly,
No, you're good, Peaches.
Through Dragonflight, where we just took a look at our map and kind of recoiled in horror at the number of different icons that were there, and it was just a kind of icon soup situation that made us say, like, it's kind of at this point, we've advanced far past the world of, oh, you just have some daily quests or world quests here.
I agree.
Clearer visual language.
I feel like the quests are really easy to follow.
Central interface that players use to log in and see what there is to do in WoW on a given day.
So that covers the War Within, and the alpha is starting extremely soon.
Pretty much working on getting it stood up as we speak, as we sit here right now. And yeah, so the way this is going to work is pretty similar to the Dragonflight Alpha for those who followed that, where really each week, each new build that we release, we're focusing on a different piece of War Within to concentrate player feedback and our attention to just really get all that feedback in and maximize the quality. So we're going to start off zone by zone, level band by level band. This first week is going to be the Isle of Dorn, level 70 to 73 or so, the dungeon and delves there, as well as universal systems like hero talents. With successive alpha builds, we'll move on to other zones, other portions of War Within, inviting more waves of people. If you haven't gone to the website to opt in yet, that's a great reminder to do so. We, really pick from, there's no secret to it. We're just randomly pulling.
What is Thanksgiving in America? November?
Hope to get, by the end of this, countless people into our testing. Once we've gotten through all of those rounds of focus testing, we'll move into our beta phase, which really is an end-to-end
Last Thursday,
holistic
November.
test within from 70 all the way to 80 and the end game and beyond.
So
and
for
throughout,
alpha.
feedback, bug reports, suggestions, all of this is instrumental to helping turn what we have now into the finished product that we want to be the best it possibly can be for all of our players later this year.
Thank you so much for joining me for the War Within.
Perfect.
And
So do we think that War Within's going to be coming before BlizzCon in October? Or are they going to hold it and do it after BlizzCon? That's the real question. That's the tea I want to have. When are they going to release there's not a date, is there? You think after? I hope they do it in November. And I say that too as somebody that I want to go to TwitchCon. So please do it when I'm back from TwitchCon. Thank you so much.